Laura Viers, how do you feel about this moment in time in your life and career?
It feels great to be honored tonight. I have been writing songs for 30 years and have made 14 records, and most of the job of a songwriter is solitary in my room. So to have the public acknowledgement of all the work that I've done feels great.
Give the people who will be watching this kind of an idea of your vibe. I mean, give me an idea of who Laura Viers is and how over the last 30 years you've changed.
Yeah, for sure. I grew up in Colorado, and my parents are teachers. I went to school in Minnesota College, studied geology, discovered punk rock and the underground music scene in the Pacific Northwest. At that time, it was the late 90s, and I was in my mid-20s, early 20s, and just discovering myself as a musician. I wrote a letter to Bikini Kill, and they wrote back. And that, to me, was like a really big moment because I was fairly isolated. This was before the internet, believe it or not. There was a time before the internet. And so sending letters back and forth to women punk rockers and watching Ani DeFranco tour around in her car with her CDs in the back, like that was all very formative for me in terms of the approach that I took as a musician, which was very community-based, DIY, punk rock kind of attitude. So that was the foundation, and then from there I grew, and that meant moving to Seattle, making different bands, meeting my now ex-husband, but who ended up being a big part of my musical life as my producer for 10 records, and touring the world and everything going from there. But yeah, I still have that approach. I love collaborating with people. I love not boxing myself in as a musician. I love to do visual art and teach. And so I have 2 kids. I'm a single mom. I'm getting married again in the spring and the summer. So I'm blending families. So there's a whole world that's happening that's unfolding in a really interesting way. And you never know what's going to happen in life. And being a musician is such an odd career, but it has brought a lot of adventure and meaning to my life.
Why do you say being a musician is an odd career?
Well, I come from a family of academics, so everybody has a PhD, and not everybody, but it's a very heady group. So I'm the breakout member of the family as a professional musician artist. So in that way, I think it has been seen as like, when are you going to get a real job? And they finally stopped asking me that when I was like in my mid-30s.
Yeah.
I think my family's here to support me. They're very supportive. They've been supportive the whole time. But I think, it is, my kids want to be musicians, and they're 14 and 11, 2 boys. And I'm like, I don't know about that, because it's a hard row. It's a tough row to hoe. And like, I admire musicians so much. I was driving from Seattle. I just played a gig there last night. And I was telling my fiance, who was in the car with me, he's an ethnomusicologist, so he studies the anthropology of musicians and over time different cultures, and so he's fascinated to be out on the road. But he's an academic, he teaches at Reed, and I was just saying, like, there's musicians touring all over the world right now, just like we are, driving in their cars. I was like, so many of the years of my life have been spent like this. Driving places. That's what we do. We're traveling salespeople in a way. We're an ancient people of entertainers who travel the globe. And I was like, so many of the years of my life have been spent on the road, literally on the road driving. And so it is kind of like, to come from a family of academics, it's been a very like offshoot. No one else in my family line has done anything like this. And as far as my kids, I'm like, I love that they're creative and they love music. Their dad's a musician, their mom's a musician. They've been backstage 100 million times. They've been on the road. They've sold merch. They've been roadies. They know how to play music. Like, so part of me is like, yeah, join the family business. But another part of me is like, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to make it work in terms of having a family and having stability and all the things that artists have struggled with since the dawn of time.
Well, and it's also to be doing this for more than, 3 decades here?
Yeah.
I don't want to say 30 years.
It is.
But why do you think you've been able to sustain such a long, successful career?
That's a great question, and I've wondered about that. I think that part of it is that I haven't had a ton of success. I've had enough success to keep going and to have a family and own a house and have stability and like have passive income and all the things from my songs. But when you get super successful, sometimes that can throw you off kilter and start to like add complication to your life and maybe knock you off of the path. And like it's just, I feel grateful in a way that I haven't had a hit, because it's like I can just keep plugging along and like I can live the life that I want to live, have a lot of freedom of my schedule, have a lot of time for my kids, while also continually writing and creating new work and having a fairly stable mindset, like sense of self. And fame can be difficult for people, and it hasn't like kind of crushed on me too much. It's been pretty steady. My career has stayed fairly level for a long time. Also, I just love writing. I love writing songs, I love creating things, and I think I've maintained my connection to that love. And sometimes, again, with fame or the pressures of real life and children and responsibilities, and can kind of pull people away from that connection to themselves and that joy of creation, which I hope I'll never lose the connection to, because that is the driving force of all of this. It's my love of making things, whether that's like making visual art or making a podcast or making like a dinner that's creative, or making songs or making friends or making, a teaching business. It's like I love to make things. I love to generate things. It brings me joy to do that. So I think that's probably what is at the root of it. And I hope, again, that I see myself as a lifelong creative person. So I hope that I don't know why it would change. It hasn't changed in 51 years. So hopefully it'll stay.